Welcome to PathPulse, Pathology Innovators in Action, your go-to podcast for practical and implemented digital pathology insights.
Welcome to PathPulse. This is the digital diagnostic podcast. It's the podcast that showcases pioneers, innovators, and forward-thinking individuals within the digital pathology arena who are making a difference in day-to-day care. I am Bianca Collings, and today we are joined by Dr. David Terrano, a specialist in advanced dermatopathology. He's someone who represents a very fascinating perspective in digital pathology. As one who is not fully adopted, but one of its most enthusiastic advocates. David, would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners and walking us through the path and where you are today?
Sure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm a pathology trained dermatopathologist. Just to go back briefly, did MD and PhD training in Little Rock, Arkansas. Went on to do path residency at Columbia and a couple fellowships in pathology, one in general oncologic pathology at Memorial, Sloan Kettering, and then dermatopathology at Mount Sinai. So from there, I got my first job. And that was a fun story because my wife, who's also a dermatopathologist, finished her fellowship a year ahead of me because she was smart. She only did one fellowship. I did two. And so she was out in Scottsdale. I ended up, during a visit, serendipitously met Dr. Rich Berner, who had owned and started and sold an amazing lab called Arizona Dermatopathology at that time, and just kind of hit it off. And as every fellowship person does, eventually they start asking people for jobs. So I emailed him after a meeting and said, hey.
It's like, it has to end at some point.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm sure he saw it. I think, and he's a very forward thinker, so he kind of saw the same connection, like, because he's trying to phase out in his career at that time and do something different. And he's gone and done amazing things. So, reached out to him and eventually, through a couple meetings and interview, landed a job out there. And with the plans to be medical director maybe after a year, he was ready to scale back. And he kind of said after six or 9 months, he's like, I think you're ready. So I'm going to scale back. You're going to be director now. And that was a little abrupt, but he had such a good system in place. You weren't really doing much, but you wanted to be involved and learn it. And we were the largest market share lab in that county, Maricopa, at that time. I'm sure they still are, but he taught me a ton about how to run a lab, how you set it up. And as we get into more discussions about DermPath, we could talk about the role your first real world mentor plays in becoming what you really become, more than your other training. That's all good for knowledge and it's necessary, but that's the person who shows you how it's done and gives you the confidence.
So very operational, it sounds like, that he came in and showed you, okay, now you've had your medical training. I am going to mentor you into how we have operationalized this.
Yeah. And he mentored me in how to be a diagnostician too. You got all this knowledge. Here's the reality in real life. Here's how we do it. Here's how to have confidence in being a diagnostician.
So
for example, if you know what it is,
side of it.
If you know what it is, just say it. Limit the words. Just put that diagnosis down and go on. And then during that time, we wanted to move back out east, my family and I, and a job at Bethesda DermPath opened up. Interviewed, and during COVID, I think I interviewed in January, right before. Everyone was outside in January. It's actually warm here. And then COVID hit, still had the job in place and came out here and just got going. And that was obviously a weird time for everybody, and segues into digital pathology, how that was really the catalyst that, made Memorial Sloan Kettering really validate their digital pathology. And everyone
was the trigger. Yes, it was.
Yep. It was the trigger. And you never know. And we can get into my DermPath or hopeful digital journey at some point, but that's how I landed here, became the medical director here within probably about 6 months. Kind of the same situation. A lot of these folks will start a lab and then they kind of want to sunset out or do less, and then they find someone newer,
they find
fresher.
You. They nurture you each time.
Yeah. And it was good to come into here and bring that operational knowledge, but also knowing you can't just come in and completely change the way they do things. Something he taught me also, Dr. Bernert, was at the beginning, you want to be really conscious of what you're doing, keep a notebook or something, because at the beginning you're fresh, you see things you want to change. And so you're kind of a note taker for a month, not a sledgehammer right away. You don't want to bulldoze the way they were doing things. And then after that, you get so busy, you probably never think about what to change again. So, try to keep some of that in mind.
I love that. We talk about that just in general in business when you are in a new venture or a new position. We have this tendency to take all of the knowledge and jump in and want to start knocking down walls before understanding. Oh, maybe there's pipes. Ooh, maybe that's a load bearing wall. Maybe so, I like that. A month of note taking. I do often tell new hires, take 6 months, breathe, learn, ask questions. There usually is a reason why. So that's fascinating. So you took that same philosophy into your new role. I love though that both times you went from almost zero to the top in 60 seconds in 6 months. I mean, that just speaks to your, you must be you're incredible to be able to do that and want to manage it and hungry.
Yeah, I think it's that. I even told the RVP, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. I even use that word, I'm hungry. So while I still have the energy, I only had one kid at the time.
Okay.
You better ask me now. Or else
Tell me now before I'm sleep deprived. Okay.
Exactly. So and I learned a lot coming into a new place. Like what I tend to do is micromanage a little bit too much at first. And then you start getting the signal that you're doing that. And then you realize the people are there. You can trust each other. And when you first come in, they either really love you because you're new or they're really skeptical, and then it fluctuates back the other way. And eventually through time, you just sink in, have a good relationship. You kind of see some of the people who just don't need to be there anymore. And, eventually they kind of like sunset out and
weave themselves out.
Yeah.
Well, what you said was interesting though. Micromanage, I think, is just, it's another, like, trust is the antidote for micromanagement, and you did say that. And I know from just the work we've done with DermPath that even the most experienced pathologists can be humbled, and humility is a huge factor here.
Yes.
Just curious, talk to me about that aspect of the diagnosis and humility and getting it right in the specialty, and what's at stake and why humility is so important.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the majority of DermPath, assuming you get like the right specimen and you could see everything you need, is very diagnostic. A lot of it's pretty straightforward. There are details that matter even within like an obvious diagnosis, like a basal cell carcinoma. But another mentor I had said even a seborrheic keratosis, which everybody knows is benign, nothing happens, even that he would say, quote, bring you to your knees. And it's, I remember my first case I signed out was a easy, benign case. And the director there, he took a picture of me hitting sign, because it's until you like cross that threshold and your name's on it, that's, you have a lot of knowledge, and you're kind of shaken a little bit when you're signing that first one. So you have to like continually build systems and pattern recognition to make sure you're diagnostic. You want to be very confident, but the humility part is any case, any day, any type of specimen it could surprise you. And in DermPath, one reason I like it is very high throughput. It's efficient. It keeps you interested. And you don't have to take a lot of it home. You kind of make your decisions and think about it the next day if you have to. But with that said, you could easily go too fast.
Sure.
And, a lot of the mistakes are from all of us. I'm not saying anyone in particular are, you make things too complicated. You overlook something. There's just a wide variety of diagnoses. Everybody knows the basics, but it's just like everything in life. It's the gray zones. Those are the hard ones that you have to be really conscious of. For me personally, like all the rare diseases are always attractive. That's what draws you to certain specialties. But I learned in my job in Arizona, to get good at the bread and butter, that's a unique skill. And you get really good at those and be diagnostic and definitive and confident, because then you have to spend time in the hard ones. And that's sort of the philosophy he taught me there. And fellowship, you're just trying to drink from the fire hose, and you're just trying to learn.
So I want to talk about this, the very high throughput and your operational background. I love you continually are mentioning these mentors. So with all of this knowledge, you had this desire to use tech in your workflow, in your practice. Tell me about how that came about and what made you want to investigate adopting tech.
Well, I think in terms of tech for what, pathology right now, it is obviously digital, right? I wasn't much of I guess you'd have to call it a non-believer, because glass, you just get comfortable with it. It's kinetic and you think it's faster. Sure. Fast forward to seeing a lot of folks using it now. Let's say one person who I send consults to with a lot, he's got decades of experience, and he says it's even better now. It's faster. And a lot of the non-believers who are very experienced, probably because there's less slide fiddling, paper fiddling, tray handling, they just use their expertise, their eyes and their brains, and just look at cases and, move forward and just be very, focused on the work. There's a lot of things we do with papers and trays and clicking and all these things before you even write a diagnosis. So even now, with not being digital, I use generative AI like everyone else does to check grammar. If that was more integrated into my software, it'd be way better. If I have a really tough case, I use open evidence, which is only doctors can use because you have to have an MPI number, but you can kind of tell it what you're seeing, and it can give you a differential, ideas. I thought my colleague said this, and I think it's wrong, it'll help you reason it out. It's gotten better at reasoning. We've all gone through Gemini or ChatGPT, and you start going down a rabbit hole of discussions.
It's true.
And you're having a conversation.
Flavor of the day, right?
Yeah.
And Claude is our new flavor. It changes, but it's getting better. Yep. And you said the non-believers, and I've heard from the mouth of many DermPaths that don't tell me this is going to make me faster, because and you know what, I've watched, and that isn't always the promise of digital pathology, right? That we're going to make you faster. We may make you more efficient. We may make your lifestyle a little bit better. We're going to make consults easier. We may make billing issues easier. I mean, just all of that's available and at our fingertips, trying to bring it to just amplify your work. But I did learn very quickly, do not tell a pathologist you are going to make them. But it's true. I mean, you've got the patterns of everything, like you said, it's all patterns, and you have a way, and the software is catching up with your when I say your workflow, you talk about all the clicks. You don't want multiple clicks.
They don't want clicks.
You want to see all your slides arranged in a certain way. You don't want to be on multiple screens when you're dealing with one. That it's catching up to, I would say, your wildest dreams.
I believe it. I mean, and I think, like you said, it's about efficiency. So less moving this way and that way and looking at different things and writing down
even
code.
A head turn, you don't want it. That's just,
after 100 cases, that kind of adds up. And I think the big thing it might be is you're reducing the friction and all the brain drain of doing all these little tasks. That's an added value as well. But I think the other value to add, and I would love to visit a lab who's maybe doing all these things, is voice commanding of every step you do, scanning in cases or bottles and requisitions, and very hands-free operational extracting insurance information from a requisition. To me, that's where digital anything will add the most value in terms of efficiency, reducing the number of people you need to go grab cases and pull material and send to someone else. So it might be not a huge ROI, but there will be an ROI there. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. So tell me that you just described different pieces of your workflow.
Yeah.
Tell me, if you would, what that ideal workflow looks like. A ideal digital perfect workflow. I wonder if it exists. But
In the lab itself, like in something Lumea does with their RFA sensors in bottles, that's like ideal, where like once the specimen hits a bottle and it's barcode in the clinic, you in the lab can like already detect it. You see it in your system. Barring that being perfect, once the specimen's received, it's under camera, it's visually, and there's obviously a person inspecting it and taking out the requisition in the bottle and making sure everything matches and putting it where it needs to be. But that should trigger either through, a video capture or a quick accession into your system. And then you could just move it to the grossing bench, where they mostly hands-free from any paper, just handling the bottle and the specimen, and dictate accurately. Even Siri on my phone still doesn't understand a lot of things I say, but, dictate accurately what the specimen is, the measurements, and then off it goes, scanned in. And then when I come in, I'm just at a desk and looking at a couple screens and going through my cases. I prefer, if it was up to me, and I'd have to see how it goes, but I would have a large iPad. I like to, pinch in and zoom around. I think that would be better for me, but who knows? I'd probably do either. I think
iPads are interesting because we do have that option. I would say we work with one derm group, and they are so sticky. In fact, I think they go out kicking and screaming if we took away their iPads. I will say the Microsoft Surface Pro too, where you have, if you wanted a bigger screen, but having that ability to manipulate with your hands, where it's nice. It's familiar, yet it's familiar to let's say the standard with the tech, just being continue to be able to
tactile
that with your hands, very tactile. Here I am moving my hands. This like, it is very tactile, and you want to keep what's familiar. So that is
and
ideal.
I think a lot of the workforce for the technical part, we have trouble finding people. It's very hard now. And I think you probably get a lot
aspect.
A lot of new grads who are probably, they're more digital savvy than most of us who've been, because they've only ever lived in that world. They probably easily, instead of being people who arrange slides and papers, they can just drop a digital slide into someone's folder. And I'm sure that would be very easy for them to run those interfaces, and, they can start doing more high-level things and advancing their careers. And it's the technical things that drive like any science, medicine, or workforce. It's the things you don't see.
Think they'll demand that? I
don't know.
I haven't seen it be a make or break situation yet, but I wonder in the coming years, and especially as our academic centers are using digital more than just a digital microscope, because there's a huge difference in a digital workflow and then digital pathology as just your viewer that's literally a digital microscope. And I don't know that I have seen a full digital workflow being taught, but it's there. And your dream that you just, that's the
ideal.
It is a reality, right? RFID tracking and it's capturing, at the grossing station, and the visualization,
right?
Even the tech, when you have that digital hub, there's tech. You've got like your VoiceBrook or your Lumea that you just voice dictate, and you've got your gross description, and also not to devalue the standardization where you're eliminating, I'm not going to say 100% of the human error, but when you're using a ruler to measure or different modes of description, bringing in that tech standardizes everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then when the pathologist receives, what you're viewing, there are multiple checkpoints to make sure, okay, this is really what has come over. There are that many samples. I think it's just interesting to me that this is so attractive to you, and that you started out with that operational mentor, because everything you're talking about, it just screams efficiencies. You just want to be efficient. You want to get the very best care that.
Yes. A lot of the times that you make mistakes or correct a report is because it's just some small technical thing. You didn't see all the tissue. You could dream of an algorithm that says you call it cyst, and every time you get a cyst on the slide, because cyst is a common clinical description that often comes back as some really bad malignancy, because clinically they can't see anything. It looks like a cyst clinically, but then they shell it out, send it to you, and a lot of times that could be a very bad malignancy that had some cystic change but wasn't a benign cyst. So an algorithm that says, did you review the whole slide, like kind of checklist items, because if you see cyst on a requisition, you see so many per day that your mind will have an anchoring bias that it's probably a cyst, so that's what it is. But
almost like confirmation bias. So
exactly,
it's probably a cyst.
But if you can activate that every time you diagnose cyst, and it just scans that slide and looks for it, I mean, that's probably would take a lot of computing, but I'm sure there's ways to do that. And that's how I view digital. Obviously, you're right. You get a scanner in, you just start viewing it and just start doing it. And that's cool in itself, but that doesn't
almost phase one. We're going to, but then you have this, so maybe it starts there, but then it expands both directions to the almost pre-analytical to post and prognosis, with add-ons in that hub. You've got your ancillary molecular test options. You just mentioned AI, which is the first time we've really talked about AI in this world, which is very much a big part of digital pathology. However, I would say it seems to be the buzz, but adoption isn't where I think we anticipated it would be. I'm just curious, what is your
I think it's right now the main use of AI is what everyone's probably using in their regular life. One of these generative AI apps that makes things better, like I talked about Open Evidence, just a little bit of an assistance. I don't know the literature right now, or here's a tough gray zone case. You can, have a back and forth conversation with it and get some references to help you make sure you're not crazy or which direction to go.
Right.
I do think some algorithms that help screen a slide and maybe just help you avoid missing things, check a margin for you. It doesn't have to be
type, like, hey, did you
100%.
see this? Did you see that?
Yeah.
Or triaging as they come in.
Yeah. Or grammar checking within your LIS. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy at all. Extracting insurance information and demo from requisition. It would save us tons of time,
Right.
That would, and a lot of missed billing. Yeah. A lot of missed billing issues arise from that. So I think the possibilities are endless. It's probably just technical, and you just have to, there's a lot of smarter people out there than me who are very technical and at those types of things who could probably develop just a small piece, and you just keep growing the technology over time. But the big issue with a lot of the stakeholders is they don't want to invest because you don't see an immediate ROI. It's, what is it, $300,000 to $500,000 to get one or two scanners, set up the infrastructure, and but for a lab like us, we're at a large scale. You have to think 5 to 10 years down the road so that you don't start seeing an exodus of pathologists go into labs that are digital, that you don't see a client saying, well, you guys don't share dynamic images with me that I could look at myself or show my patients. I'm going to use that lab. So, there's a lot of, you don't want to oversell like all these technical advances, but I think just the fact that you go digital, you integrate and start learning how to use the tech, because there's no doubt in 5 to 10 years, if we're not already there, you know, you're just going to be using it fully, and you have to use it to really learn how it works. And we already know how to do things efficiently in a manual way. I mean, you just need to apply it to different tech.
Right. And it's not when will the train leave the station. It's left. It's a matter of when are we going to jump on? And your obstacle is not unique, but what is amazing, as we've seen digital pathology catch up to your workflow and the needs, scanners are doing the same thing financially. I've seen, you know, in the beginning, it was, you know, it's this one-time cost and it, you know, $250,000 to $400,000, but now they're getting very creative with financing.
Pay per slide.
Or pay. Yeah. It's almost like a service, right? It's a slide scan per service. There's so many different ways. Right. I don't want to say skin the cat, but that's really what this is. There's many different ways to do this, but, and also learning to scale your most expensive FT, I should say, is, you know, we are making you more efficient and do more and more attractive as far as recruiting goes. And I've also seen it can't just be one, it has to be all. There are those that like half will go digital and half won't, but now you're incurring the costs of storage on both ends. But there are so many advantages. Now you have the data play and all of that with making that data incredibly valuable. All right, so you're a believer. What is the number one pain point or obstacle to adoption right now?
I think, especially, I guess if I rewind a little, if I was a starting out lab or very new, I bet they're the ones who are more rapidly adopting, because they are so new. They probably got some startup capital and they realize I just do it now and then I have it in perpetuity. Whereas the other labs like ours were more established, brick and mortar. It's the ROI that it's a mental change, right? It's a cost. It doesn't have, there are reimbursement codes for viewing digital slides, and you know, we've shown that and told the people who make our decisions that, and they know it, but I don't think it's reimbursing at a super high rate. But that ROI, the ROI is probably the biggest thing, right? Obviously, like holding it back. And there's also another piece of the puzzle. You know, you want to have good IT support, but I don't know how vital it is. I mean, certainly it's important. You know, it's the most important thing, because if you can't transmit your report, can't transmit your product, so you know you're dead in the water there. But I feel like when we tried to demo it here and bring it on board, maybe the better approach to get it on board would have been to just say, hey, let's get the box in here and just start viewing slides, and we don't have to integrate it with our systems. We don't have to worry about security right now. We'll worry about that as we go. So, because IT always, especially larger organizations like ours, they're always going to be worried about security, because there's always someone hacking them and wanting to, or trying to, and that shuts down everything. And, you know, they're on the hook for the federal government. You lose data, even if it was impossible to stop, it's still a risk. All that data can get lost. So, you know, those are risks and concerns they have, and they're valid. But, you know, if you think of a long-term horizon, which is how you have to think, that's why if I was a smaller lab, maybe 10,000 specimens, or, you know, really tiny, I'd probably digitize from the get-go and just go from there. Yeah.
Well, you brought up an interesting point. Both of your labs were they're both existing. You came in with you know, a process that had been in place for I don't know how many years. versus, and again, it was go back to the house, right? It's getting into a house.
Yeah.
It's a 50-year-old house, and I want to remodel this. You know, I'm going to need a new HVAC, a new water softener. I'm going to need new plumbing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to bring this into the modern age, it's going to cost a lot of money versus
Sure.
I'm just going to build a house from scratch. And, and it is a different mindset.
But at the end of the day, if you're still doing all the things I've learned there and all the things I do here in terms of quality control, diagnostic excellence, those don't change. You know,
Right.
maybe you have binders for your manuals now. It's all digital. You know, it's all still there. So honestly, I feel like if you just get the box in the lab, all your lab managers and techs, they'll figure it out. And I'm sure these companies give a lot of support when you need it. You know, the little things will always get in the way. Mm-hmm. Does my barcode, is it readable on the slide? You know, we have a lot of like technical things that have like really scare our lab folks that they really don't want to do it, and they're valid.
Yes.
So, but you know,
we're still change management too, though, yes. Right? This goes beyond cost, and that's where you're talking about the trust, yep. Security, trust that the process isn't going to fail.
Yeah.
Also, just tech in and of itself. We've interviewed pathologists that through different hospital systems, they are digital, but they're still 90% glass because the system. He said, I don't want to watch it render when I know that I can continue. Yeah. So you really do need a system that will match your speed, and that the tech infrastructure is there as well to not slow anyone down.
People are, I mean, the pathologists I work for, they're smart. They even were doing everything manually. They know how to like, okay, here's if I arrange my slides, I do it in this way, and I use these codes, I'll be efficient. So you don't want to bring on something that gets in the way of that. Absolutely. You probably have to validate it probably in parallel and then get it going, you know. So I agree. I do feel like I remember I learned about digital path in fellowship with Dr. Singh or Jendra Singh at Mount Sinai. He founded Path Presenter, and he I just met with him at the executive. He showed me his system, and he did a bunch of things. He's very entrepreneurial, and I was like, Raj, you just do this. It looks really good. And it was still slow then. So I was like, man, this is just, it was more educational then. It worked better for that because it was slow. Right. But it's since I'm sure it's gotten better. I've done some advisory work with one DermPath company, and it wasn't amazing, but it was fine. But, you know, it does a little annoying things, like it's always upside down when you open it. I always wondered why they couldn't do it right side up. But I feel like those things just take care of themselves. And,
they do, but with a good partner, and meaning you being that partner. And there are companies, and I'm an advocate for Lumea, obviously, where it's the most interesting software client tech partnership. I didn't see that before in tech. I wasn't as close to our customers, but I see our technical team is very much invested in building for the customer. So it is this, you know, if the screen is upside down, or if, 3 less clicks will make us faster. Like, they really do listen so that they're building for you, and it won't always be that way, but we're in this period. I think of it almost like electric cars. You know, the infrastructure wasn't there. The cost wasn't there back in the day when Tesla came out. Now, you know, we've got several different competitors on the market. Yeah. And it was really hard in the beginning to drive an electric car without charging stations along the highway. Or, you know, all of that they're really building for the user and trying to make this the best experience possible, which is our goal. So finding a really good tech partner, I think, will also help the trust issues, the change management issues. Like, we really do want to make this the very best experience, not just for the pathologist. Yes, you're very important, but for your lab and everyone involved in that workflow. And especially in one thing in DermPath, we're very,
especially we're in private practice, we're very like client friendly. We serve them really well. And
Yes.
so we would want to work with companies who do that for us as well, because, you know, it's a business and you have to survive, but it also just makes the relationship better when you know, they're, for DermPath specifically, they're sending us work voluntarily. So, you know, they're not obligated to, so we have to, you build the trust through service. You know, so
I agree. That mutual. Yeah. We agree that, you know, we're in this together. We're all building this together. And in the end, we really want what is best for that patient. And, you know, if we can get answers faster and be more confident in the diagnostics because of consults or whatever that may be, we are invested in this with the patient. So let's say you in this next 6 months, you figure this out and you're going to adopt some platform. 2 years down the road, what does your practice look like?
2 years down the road, I think when we talked about the dream world, you know, that'd probably be too fast for what I proposed. It sounds like to me. I don't know. It could be. You know, that would be the ideal. I think starting from the specimen bottle, having some way of detecting that specimen hit the bottle and can get it almost accessioned at that time, but truly setting up a very like virtual camera driven type of workflow in the technical lab and just having images scanned and viewed. In our type of setting, you know, our LIS is pretty old, so integrating with that would be problematic or require adopting a new LIS. So that's probably what would happen. But I feel to me, ideally, I'd be on an iPad or just at my desk in some cockpit and just looking at, you know, slides all day and starting to create little maybe algorithms or workflows that help me quality control. And I don't, to me, it's just use it and you figure out how to do it type of thing. And more of my time will be spent communicating with clinicians. I already got 3 texts right now about a case.
Oh, you do? Here we are.
And I feel like, for example, one thing we do if we have a melanoma, we report it to the clinician, like as a critical result. I would love if, you know, I could put in a little bit of a script into my LIS, and once I make that diagnosis, I hit sign, and I could even hit send message to alert them. Certainly be encrypted or something, just something small so that I don't have to go to my phone and do it. Right. I don't have to make a call. I don't have to hit Teams to tell my assistants, can you call them, get them on the phone with me, you know, just get it kind of streamlined right from the cockpit of the screen. So, but at the end of the day, you know, now I'm much less worried about the efficiency part, because what I've learned recently is you speed up by slowing down in a way. And I've learned enough after 9, almost 10 years of doing this that that's the way you become efficient and accurate. You know, you build a little system of how to look at the slide, how to approach the case. So I think all that stuff probably will never change. So in those 2 years, wouldn't see a problem with adopting it. And I do think a lot of my aspirations wouldn't come true in 2 years, but you could certainly see some of it starting. I mean, and if all of the improvements came in the technical part of the lab itself only, I'd be happy. If I just had a viewer and my old LIS, I'd still be happy with that. Because whatever you could do whatever you could to help, that's the engine of the system, the lab over there. And whatever you could do to help them, it always pays dividends. That's what I learned in Arizona. And we get back to what he also taught me there is the patient, man. No matter what you do, if you're focused on them, for whatever your reasons for doing medicine, if it's very altruistic, which I know a lot of us, we go into medicine for that reason, but also, you know, you take responsibility. You're a professional. You want to do a good job too. So the best way to do that is do what's best for that patient. And that's more of a diagnostic discussion if we want to get into that. But that's, you know, I think all that stuff will take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. With the right goal in mind, always. I think your game plan, your roadmap, it's only going to get better for you, for the patient, for your lab. And I don't know if we'll have this opportunity, but I'd love to circle back with you in 2 years. And I'm sure I'm telling you, you're going to go digital. I know you will.
We hope so. We only hope so. Yeah. Even if we just got a scanner in my office, that'd be good too.
Yeah. Hey, we'll see what we can do. I mean, not a scanner company, but no, this has been really fascinating. And you've validated a lot of my theories on why a DermPath would want to be digital. And it sounds like, you've got an incredible background. And
no, thanks.
I'm sure, I don't know, is remote work a desire? Because that's one thing you didn't mention at all. And I know for some, it's that is the driver. I know a lot of female DermPaths that have young children, and that was the motivating factor. And very from testimonial of, you know what, it actually didn't make me a lot faster. But now I can be a mom when I need to be a mom, and I can sign out cases at any time of day.
No, I think, that's something the stakeholders, they kind of think like, well, is this the only reason you guys want to go digital? And I'm like, look, who wouldn't want to be flexible? Of course. Yeah, I would love that aspect, and I agree. But as a director, I'd have to be in here at least a few times a week, just making sure things are going well. But
absolutely. Your role is a little different. Yes.
Yeah, 100% I want the flexibility. Who wouldn't? And, a lot of times if it's 3, I got to go pick up my son. Traffic here where I live is not fun. And I still have work to do. And if I could do that, I could space out my time instead of trying to rush it all into these short hours, maybe space it out on those harder days. Definitely. I would love to do that. The vacation coverage, we're a little short staffed now. Yeah. And if one of the high volume people like me goes out on vacation, too much falls on 1 or 2 people. So maybe I can't do my regular volume, but I could help with a small set of cases.
Going to stop, right? Yeah. And that was another scenario, was the woman telling us she wanted to go spend the summer with her widow mother. And she couldn't figure out how that was going to happen. And then she remembered, and it actually accelerated them to the finish line. They'd already started adopting digital pathology.
Got it. Yeah. So you need an accelerant.
Use an accelerator. For sure. Anyway, and she was one of the ones that had the biggest obstacles. But when she realized, I can have this. Okay, let's get it done, at least to the point where I have the viewer. Right.
All those other things. My aspirations are, I'm a little bit of a dreamer. The aspirations are high, but just get the viewer, get the scanner, you're doing good. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been lovely meeting with you today. Thank you for joining us on PathPulse. I'd love to invite you again to join us in the future. I want to retrospective after you've adopted. I think it would be very fascinating.
Yeah, it would be great. Yeah.
Did the dream come true? Was the dream everything you thought it would be?
And it definitely won't be. Nothing's ever perfect.
Right. But what if it's more?
Yeah.
It's
going to be more. Yeah, for sure. And I've only heard positive things from people, and I appreciate you having me on. So it was fun.
Thank you. And enjoy. And thank you for joining us on PathPulse, and we will see you next time.